Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of the Kindness Objective podcast. I am Melissa Marquais, founder of TKO. We are a nonprofit organization, and we are working to combat cruelty and bullying in the world against both people and animals by instilling kindness, empathy, and love in children and adults. And today joining me is Jonathan Fink. He is the Director of Corporate Partnerships for the Goodwill Corporation of Southern California. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you doing this. You're busy, so certainly appreciate your time.
No problem. I'm excited.
Awesome. And I know prior to your role with Goodwill, you were, I wrote this down so I don't misspeak, you were Senior Manager of Corporate Partnerships for the Starlight Children's Foundation, right?
Yeah, I was there for about a year and a half, 2 years. It was a really cool experience. I really liked it. It's a good organization.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of them before, so I went and I looked them up just to kind of get an idea of what they do. So they've been in business, I think, since 1983, and they do things to deliver happiness to children and families that are dealing with potential terminal illness, and they're partnered with like 800 different hospitals, right?
Yeah, so their nonprofit is program based. They do a lot of things to help kids with a non-specific illness really alleviate some of the pressures of being in the hospital and being away from your friends and, not being able to just go do whatever you want. So it's a really cool organization. Yeah, it was a good time.
I love what they're doing, and I'm sure that was definitely a good experience for you. I'd love to know a little bit more about your role.
So partnerships at Starlight were very program based, right? So we find a partner, we find a program that they wanted to support, and we had a connection with, and we kind of went from there. Whether that be gowns or wheelchairs or video games or anything, or toy donations or money donations. So whatever they felt the most compelled to donate to, we kind of pushed them in that direction. At Goodwill, my role is a little bit more expanded, a little bit bigger. So Goodwill has two parts, and this is something that I didn't really know a lot about when I first got there, but it's really cool, right? So Goodwill has the retail side that everyone knows about, the stores. You can buy very cool things for very little money. It's really a cool thrifting experience. And then there's the programmatic side. So then that's where I come in. So our programs are helping alleviate the pressures and the barriers of people to unemployment, whether that be youth at risk or recently incarcerated or recently homeless or currently homeless or military. And so our programs are built around getting those people back on their feet and back into the workforce. And, so they have money to help their kids. They have money to get food. They have money to drive to their jobs. They just, it gives them a sense of responsibility. Some of these people, like recently incarcerated, there are people who just got out who don't know what the internet is. So, it's crazy to think about, right? You've been in jail for 20 years. You don't really have a good sense of what the internet is. So it's really getting these people back on their feet, catching them up to the times, and giving them purpose. And so that's kind of what connected me to Goodwill, why I took the role. And it's, it's very cool because, I was like everyone else. I thought it was just the retail stores. The retail stores fund the programs. So I am on the nonprofit program side.
Excellent. I did not know that existed until just now either.
Yeah, no, I didn't know until like my third interview, and it's been a really cool, challenge to re-educate all of our potential partners and, donators and things of that nature.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And there are so many people that can benefit from that. And like you said, it's not just the people that have a job loss or somebody who's incarcerated, but it's their kids and their families as well.
One of the things that, we find a lot of times is that, when you start a job, you take it 2 or 3 weeks before your first paycheck, and you can lose a lot of people in those first 2 or 3 weeks, right? It's like, I got this job, but I don't have a car. I don't pay for gas. I can't even afford to put money or food on the table. And so our partnerships even deal with those first couple of weeks before your paycheck, right? Whether that be free rides or free food or different ways to help you get from point A to point B, and to make sure that you are focusing on keeping this job so that you don't have, and, so that you're not worried for the first 3 weeks. Maybe I don't have a place to live. I don't have a car. I don't have a way to eat lunch while I'm at this job. Why should I keep this job? It's becoming a hassle even to do it or to get there, and I haven't been paid yet. So it's really rebuilding confidence and rebuilding a want to get to that next point. And so we try to do everything we can to make it as easy as possible for the people who go through our WCD program.
Like there's so many people out there that would benefit from that who have no idea that that even exists.
Yeah, we do job fairs. We're working on doing a lot more marketing within the stores and otherwise. We're working on new and exciting partners that help fuel these programs. So it's going to take a little while, but we're really doing a good job so far.
So is this a new initiative, or is this something that's always been there and they're just expanding on it more at this point?
Sure. So it's not a new initiative and they're not expanding it. So it's already a huge program, and you really only know about the program if you're in the program. And so we are doing a better job of getting better paying jobs with more security. And so the more that we do that and help, it's called our WCD program. And they offer classes, and we have a partnership with Chase, and Chase comes and does financial classes. So it's about building these people up. So it's not so much about growing or not growing. It's more about we are putting the proper amount of emphasis on the programs finally.
That's great. So how many, if you may not know, but how many people are actually part of that program that have been placed into jobs and who have been able to kind of come out of a terrible situation and find their way to the other side?
Sure. So I don't have the numbers on that, but it's well into the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if someone watching this wanted to, if they said, wow, I didn't know that was a thing, like myself, and they thought this could be something amazing to help me out, how would they go ahead and reach out to your nonprofit side of Goodwill to get affiliated?
Sure. So go to the website, powerofwork.org. It's our development landing page. It has everything to do with the programs. It gives you all the necessary information you need. My phone number is on there, so you can actually reach out directly to me. And if anyone wants to get into the program, reach out to me and we'll get you involved.
I feel like that is such an amazing opportunity for people, because a lot of times they don't know where to reach out to at all. They think the resources don't even exist for them. And it can lead to depression, and it can lead to them feeling isolated and as if there's no path forward when there are options. And it's just a matter of hearing about those options and knowing where to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a great program. The people that run the WCD program, they love it. It's like their passion, right? So we'll do partnership calls with potential partners, and you can feel the passion and the want to help these different groups of individuals.
Just so that I'm understanding right, and I think I get this, but it's not only a matter of helping these people find employment at Goodwill, because I know Goodwill helps to employ people that are dealing with disabilities and things of that nature. It's also outside of the organization to place them in roles with other organizations.
Oh yeah, totally. So there is a pathway to working at a Goodwill if that's what you want to do, the path you want to take to become a manager, to eventually work your way up. But we have, if you go into our WCD building in downtown LA, there's a complete wall of all the different companies we work with that offer jobs to people who go through our program.
That's excellent.
There are warehouse jobs, there's tech jobs, there's manual labor jobs, there's sales jobs, there's commission only jobs, there's salary jobs, there's jobs with great benefits.
That's wonderful. Is there a specific niche that you find as far as the community that comes forward to say, I can use some help in getting myself into a good position? Like you said, there's people that come out of incarceration, and then there's youth. Is there a specific that you see more than others?
Sure. So because we do work with, the recently incarcerated or past incarcerated, or veterans who have been recently, retired from active duty, a lot of them find success in security. So a lot of, bodyguards and security and establishment security has been, it kind of works with their skill set, and it does a good job of helping them find a place that's not completely, ancient or out of their wheelhouse. And it gives them and we work with a bunch of really big security companies. So, you could end up doing security at the airport or at a club or for, a VIP. And so that's been a really successful portion of our, our workforce. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I got to plug my computer
You're
in.
fine. Absolutely.
I have one workstation for personal and work computer. So
You're fine. You're good. So a lot of veterans, it sounds like.
a lot of veterans, yeah. And these are, sorry, 1 second. And these are people who, right? So we work with people who find us. So these aren't people who we're forcing to get to work, or you have to get back for the X, Y, and Z. These are people who come to us who want to better their lives, who want to give back to society. A lot of times, and a lot of times it's I either have a job or I go back to a life that I didn't want to go back to. And so, we're actively saving people's futures with this program. And, they feel it, we feel it. And it's a really cool kind of mix of, we want to help you and you want to be helped.
It's important that you say that, because one of the things that I used to do all the time, I'm very empathetic and I always wanted to save everyone and save the world. And it took me a very long time to realize who to help, how to help, and why to help. And if you're trying to help people that don't want to help themselves, it usually doesn't end very well at all. So the fact that these are people who are wanting the help is really probably into the success of the program.
Right. Yeah. We see a lot of people who, especially from our recently incarcerated population, who, I'm not going back. I don't want to go back to that life, but I can't find a job because I was recently incarcerated. And so they come to us for the help. They didn't have to, and they did. And we give our all to every single person that walks through those doors.
One of the pillars of the kindness objective is not only kindness and empathy, but it's showing grace and allowing room for forgiveness and also for self-forgiveness. And I love that you're working with people who have recently been incarcerated or released from incarceration, because that sends the message that, look, you can change, you can do better, there is better for you. And the world needs to be more forgiving of things that people have done before and give them an opportunity to shine as they move forward. And I feel like there's a lot of, we lack that a lot in society.
Yeah. And, I think something that's happened over the last 10 years with certain laws is that things that used to be like you would go to jail for are things that aren't really jailable anymore. And
Right.
So these people are coming out, they maybe did something in 1990 that was, much more illegal at the time, and now is a slap on the wrist. And so these are people who spent time in jail where, had they been caught 20 years later, they probably wouldn't have gone to jail. And so we need to remind those people that while something bad happened, there's, you are still a good person. You still are someone who wants to contribute to society. And just because you made a mistake doesn't mean that the rest of your life should be, called into question.
I love that. It's so true that you say that too. And it's a good point, because a lot of these people that are looking for work, they don't even have the opportunity to tell a potential employer what that story looked like. Totally. And they make assumptions. Oh, this person was incarcerated, this person is no good. And so they make that immediate judgment, and they have a bias about a situation that they really know nothing about. Totally. So, and they don't get a chance to tell those stories to those employers. They're just completely written off as soon as they see their resume come in. Yes, I have a felony. Okay, we're not hiring you.
Right. Which is, it's really a shame. And so that's kind of what we do is, you may have this, but you've gone through our Goodwill program, and companies see that as a benefit.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like the companies that partner with the nonprofit side that you're working with, they really have a lot more empathy and understanding than maybe some other companies, which is why they choose to partner with this program in the first place, right?
Totally. Yep. And I think people just like us, just like me and you, are more sensitive to the different things that could have happened to someone in the past.
Absolutely, for sure. I would think one of the things that I've focused on lately is, the kindness objective was initially put together to work with kids, but then I see these constant stories about toxicity, lack of empathy, even, flat out abuse in the workplace. And so we've got the TKO kids, and then we're going to have the TKO corporate side as well. And I feel like a lot of the companies that you see being posted about, oh, this is a terrible toxic experience, they could really take a lesson from someone like yourself and the companies that you're working with on how to better improve their work culture.
Yeah, I mean, we are signing on new and really, really cool and unique companies nationally. Even though we're just Goodwill SoCal, we work with companies all over the nation and connect them with those local Goodwills. So, we are the third largest Goodwill section in the nation. We are all over Southern California. We are the first biggest by geography by a lot. So we cover a huge portion of California. We have over 80 stores that, we look over. And so, yeah, we use all of those things to further our reach, if you will. So, there are companies that work in all 50 states that we work with. There are companies that only work in one state that we work with. There are big companies, small companies. So if anybody is out there who wants to, join our program, find really, really motivated workers, reach out to me. We're happy to talk and, kind of get you rolling.
Have you ever seen that show, Pitbulls and Parolees?
Totally, yeah.
Okay. This sort of reminds me of that, because one of the things you just said was these people are so motivated and hardworking. And I think what a lot of companies fail to realize is that there's two things. When you give someone an opportunity, a second chance in life, and they're motivated, they're going to not do anything that is going to let you down. Those are going to be the people that work harder for you than anyone else, because you were willing to give them a shot when no one else was.
And even on another step to that is Goodwill is providing these people with the necessary training and work, kind of what to expect while you're working. We're giving these people the tools they need to succeed. And so when we find a company that, fits the back end of that, we've gotten you to this point, this company will take you the rest of the way. Those are the companies we want to partner with.
Yeah, because those are the companies that are going to treat those people well. Right. And that they're going to be put into a good situation with a healthy environment. Right.
For sure.
Yeah. That's great. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about in a different subject, and initially this is what drew me to you to begin with, was a post that you had put out, or a comment on someone else's post, where you mentioned having to go back to work after being out on bereavement of only 2 days. And it was an interesting thing, because I don't have a large family. I have a very small family, but I have great friends who are my family. And if anything were to ever happen to any one of those people, I would be an absolute basket case, because they are the people that I love, that I'm closest to. Yet, to the point in the post, there's a little list of people that you check mark off, and it's like, okay, well, that person doesn't qualify to be more than 2 days of, sadness and bereavement, which is not what bereavement is. Bereavement is something that goes on for a long time, and you have to work your way back into what is considered normal and productive again. It doesn't just happen in 2 days. And I believe it was your aunt. And I would love for you to touch on what that was like for you, and how that impacted you at work, and how that made you feel.
Sure. So this was at a way previous role, before we get going. And just at the start of the conversation, I wasn't working for what you would call like a good, encouraging manager. And so, it was someone who enjoyed the role title more than the role. And they, I don't know where they are at this point, but they are no longer with that company. And so, yeah, I grew up with my aunt. Really, so she's technically my great aunt. She's my mom's aunt, and but she essentially helped raise us. So she was more in like the grandmother, real like aunt type of role. And so I took off 2 days for just the funeral and the day after, because it was in San Diego. And I just assumed like that was the right thing to do. I didn't check the manual. I just assumed if I'm grieving, it's bereavement. And so when I got back to work, this manager, she, not really a condolence, she hit me with a sorry, but. And I was like, she's like, I'm sorry, but since this isn't your immediate family, please make these vacation days. And, when I pushed a little bit and I said, I'm not understanding what bereavement is, she let me know that I can continue the conversation with HR if I have a problem. Again, I'm not dealing with like a good manager or someone who anyone else on the team considered to be a good manager. She got the job because she was best friends with the CEO. And so, right. And so, I did it. I switched it to vacation days. Never any condolences, nothing like that. And it just it showed me that I enjoyed working for that company more than at that company. And I was doing a great job in my role, one of the top people on the team, if not the top person on the team. And I understood at that moment that my value at that company wasn't what I wanted my value at a company to be, right? Because if this was such a big deal, that honestly is something that wasn't a big deal. My HR person couldn't believe that we were having that conversation.
Yeah.
He was like, this is so dumb. Who cares? Like, we have unlimited PTO anyway. So like, who cares? Right.
That's the worst.
This person just went out of their way to do this. And so I looked for jobs pretty much starting the next day. And, I found a great one after that, the great manager. And, there are very few things work-wise for me that are non-negotiables. And being a good person is just non-negotiable. If you're just, if you're so scared to lose your position that, because your numbers aren't always there, that you need to find other ways to manage to show that you're managing, and, you choose that type of way, I don't think that's a good representation of a company or of a manager or, of someone with no empathy. And so, I left, and, that company is still just kind of hovering in the same position it was a couple years ago.
Not surprising.
Right.
Right. If you want to keep your top talent, then you have to treat them with respect and dignity and empathy.
Right.
Otherwise,
I think there were 9 people on my team. I think 7 people left within the next couple of months.
Wow. And it was probably because of the same manager.
Yeah,
right?
No, I mean, we would have meetings where she wouldn't know what was going on, so we had to tell her, so it wasn't a good situation. Anyone can get any role at any time, and, you're not going to mix with everybody.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's one of the things I went through that years ago myself with a really toxic manager, to the point that it was so bad that I couldn't even have a conversation with a friend or a family member without feeling like I was saying something stupid or wrong. Mm-hmm. And I realized, like, I was in bad shape after dealing with this guy. And I remember the day I called the EAP because I was worried about myself. Like, it was that bad. And they said, you need to go out on leave because this is terrible. And I wound up actually going to a counselor like 3 days a week to get through that, because it went on for a long time. And this was before remote work was really like more of a thing. And I had a son going into kindergarten, and I'm a single parent. I don't have family within 800 miles. And I'm like, I've got to get him on and off the bus, or I've got to take him to school. And it's hard. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to lose this job because it was one of the only remote options I could find at the time. And this manager made sure to remind me of that every single day as they were abusing me, so that I would take the abuse. And eventually I left there. The next role that I had was at Fleetio, and I am so grateful for that team that I worked with there, because they were amazing. Like, when you talk about being kind, I've never met a group of better people that I've worked with in my life anywhere. I think the average deals that were closed, because I was in sales there, per year were like 35. I had 106.
Amazing. Yeah.
Because I was so appreciative.
Right. What things you do when you're positively impacted at work are, it's very obvious, right? And, one of the things that this taught me, and I'm sure you learned this from your terrible experience, is that, doing a good job at your job doesn't always make you a manager, right? Sometimes you become a manager because of someone or because of tenure, or because no one else wanted it. And so I think it's important to remember that even though, this person is above you and a senior, and you have to show them respect in the workplace, that respect needs to be mutual. And when it's not a reflection of you or your work, you don't know why that person is in that position or how that person got that position. For them, it could be, I feel the way that I help the most is by micromanaging or by being like an emotionless manager. And that's fine for some people if they want to do that. It's kind of a non-negotiable for me. I'm luckily at a point where, I feel confident in my ability to move around, the workforce to find what I'm looking for. And so, yeah, it just takes one bad experience. Like, for a while, I didn't want to see any meetings on a Friday. And for a while I was scared, if I had a huge partnership coming up, I wouldn't tell her till it was finished because, she would on it, like full disclosure, she would just take it. She would take
Really?
she would take all of our big partnerships and play them off to the board like she found them. And so it was really not a good workplace. Again, I found out that she got the job because she was best friends with the CEO, regardless of, her resume. And, and she wasn't prepared for the role. And it showed through her lack of empathy and her lack of engagement with her team. And, you just kind of find those people, and there's sometimes nothing you can do except find a new job. I love my current role. I love most of the jobs I've ever held, but, I was taught early on that, a company isn't a family if they can fire you. So, just to stay at a place to be treated as lesser by a manager, it's just not in the cards anymore.
I'm glad that you have that amount of self-respect and that you have your non-negotiables.
I didn't know it. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people that have them inside just aren't in a position to exercise on their non-negotiables because they have bills and maybe they don't have savings and they're just kind of in a tough spot, especially this job market's really tough.
Especially in this job market, you're seeing more and more people lax on their laurels and their non-negotiables because, it's either I take this job or I don't know when the next even interview or not robotic message from a recruiter is coming. And so I understand that and I empathize with that for sure. It's just one of those things where if I have a manager who, excuse my French, sucks, how worth it is it for me to stay there knowing that I'm not going to do a job? I may eventually get fired because the manager is so bad, but it's going to fall on the team. And so always look for a job while you have a job, but understand that, either you're jumping into finding a new job or you're not. And if you're relaxing on your non-negotiables, you're probably going to stay in a bad situation. And so even though the market right now sucks and it's the worst market ever, I feel so bad for anybody in the market. It's just not worth your self-health and your self-respect to just, stay somewhere. It's just a job. At the end of the day, I know that job leads to money and a house and a car and food. But, if you're miserable, it's going to leak into other parts of your life and become obvious to you in other ways, and how you treat other people or how you look at just friend situations and things like that. And so, while you should keep a job for as long as you can while you can, there are always better options out there, even if it doesn't feel that way.
One thing that I would also want to point out to anybody who's watching this who might be in a really, truly toxic, abusive situation, because you've experienced it. I've experienced it on a scale that I don't even have words for. And I know other people who have. There are the options of, if it's truly affecting your mental or your physical health, go to your doctor. You do have other options. You can take leave, medical leave. If it's really impacting you to that extreme, you can take leave and you don't have to sit and tolerate that and still get paid and not have to get abused every day, because it's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse. And so if you are in this job market, which is one of the worst I've ever seen in my life, there are other options, and that may be one to consider. So I do want to point that out as well.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. Do what's best for you. If you think the job market is unbearable and you want to stay in this role, do exactly as you said. Take some time off, reflect, and there are ways to not have to deal with people in your workplace that allow you to stay there. But it just, when it hits 5, 6 o'clock, I leave all of my office. I leave all my work stuff in my office, even if I had the worst day. Thank God I don't have very many, if any, bad days in my current role. I really love it. But, if there is a bad day, you can just close your laptop, go hang out with your family, go walk the dog, go take a stroll, go surf, go do whatever you want. You don't have to be this 24-hour person robot. The work will always be there. The meeting will always be there on the next day. And, it's about, the work-life balance is super important, especially when it comes to having a toxic manager. It's easy for me to message my manager at 9 p.m. Like last night, we had a whole conversation at night because she's great and she wants the best for me and the best for the company. And that's all you're really asking for. You don't need the sun, the moon, and the sky. You need respect and respect in the workplace. And if you're not getting that, it's fairly obvious.
And if you are getting it, then you will do magic together as a team. Because like you're saying, my team at Fleetio, there could have been I remember one time it was a Sunday and it was month end and I had a deal and I was like, but you had to add something in the system in order to close it. And I was like, I don't know, I don't have access. And literally 10 o'clock at night, my team lead jumped on Slack and he's like, I got it, it's done. And I was like, awesome. And we all celebrated our wins together. And we were so successful, the whole company. And it was because of that. Like, I literally remember when I first started, the CEO and founders held this impromptu virtual meeting. And we were like, your first thought is, right? And he said, when we first put these quotas in place, we thought they were reasonable. But we have since realized that we were wrong. Mm-hmm. And we don't want people to be stressed out. And we don't want people to be anxious and worried about their jobs. So we're going to lower everybody's monthly quota. Now go at it. And do you know, that team crushed it. I've never in my life had a leadership team say something like that. And the way that it went for them, the end result was amazing. And it just goes to show that a little bit of kindness and understanding goes a tremendous way. It really, really does.
Even still, even though I had a terrible manager, she taught me a lot of things about managing. And even though they were things of not what to do, they kind of guide me now, right? So, like I was telling before, if you got a huge partnership that was really impressive, she would go to the board and she would say, I found this huge partnership. It's really impressive. Something I do is, if anyone on my development team finds a partnership, they are immediately a co-head of the partnership. They come to all the meetings. They have a say in everything that's happening and going on because I wouldn't have that partnership without you. So if you're the person that makes that partnership most comfortable, why would I not want you on every part of it? And so, it's opened up this, floodgate of people being like, well, I have a connection here. I have a connection there. I think these people at my kid's soccer game would be a perfect partner for Goodwill. And so it's become, and on the flip side, if our marketing person needs someone to bounce ideas off of, we talk for hours on the phone and just kind of brainstorm about things for Goodwill. And it's collaboration is so important. Getting a bad manager can teach you how to be a good manager. So, even if you hate that current person, learn from them because they're teaching you exactly what not to do.
That is so true. And I'm so appreciative of you taking time out of your day to come on the podcast and talk about your experience and what you all are doing on the nonprofit side of Goodwill. So before we jump off of here, if you want to go ahead and just give that website one more time, if somebody is looking to, find a relationship where they can get a roll through there.
Sure. Yeah. You can either go to Goodwill SoCal or you can go to the Power of Work, and those are both .org. Sometimes it's just search them. They'll be the first one to pop up. And my phone number is on there. So at the bottom, if you want to call me, you can get a direct line to me. We can talk either partnerships or if you want to get involved or if if you needed help finding a job. I also share on my LinkedIn all the time, things we're doing at Goodwill. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. For those of you watching, I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Stay kind to each other. Stay empathetic. It'll make the world a better place. I promise.
Yes. And if you ever need anything, when anyone to talk to, I'm here. So again, my number's on the website. Enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.